Kyle Dake lost decisively to Zahid Valencia. First match was close, but Valencia clearly had that edge between the U.S. Open and then here at Final X. I got to say, Nick, I don't know that I can foresee Kyle Dake being a true rep. Maybe there's injuries, right? There's so many different things. Like an Aaron Brooks, for example, takes a year off. Who knows if Zahid Valencia would happen to take the next cycle off, for example, to rest, to recover, or just take some time. You never know the circumstances there. But with everybody who's available here, I found it intriguing that Dake didn't go from 74 to 79. Maybe there was still, hey, maybe that's a little bit of a tough weight cut there. But I can't help but think that maybe because Levi Haynes, everybody knew within the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club and Penn State program that Haynes was ready to go at 79. So then Dake doesn't disrupt that. He goes up to 86, where the challenger is, well, yes, Carter Starachi, but Starachi, what is he going MMA? Is he going to continue to wrestle freestyle and everything like that? In terms of guys that are fully dedicated to the sport, and I'm not trying to say that Starachi isn't, he's dedicated to the competition, but we don't know his ultimate outlook. Zahid Valencia is doing just that. He's eating, sleeping, breathing, freestyle wrestling. And at 86 kilos, he's the guy until he does until no more. Maybe Carter Starachi, and again, Starachi's there if he pursues this. I just don't see a clear path for Dake to get back into a world team lineup. I really do think Olympics, I hate to definitively say it, but if he has any Olympic aspirations for 2028, I think that's off the table here. You try to get back on maybe at least one world team if you're Kyle Dake, but this is kind of the end of the road, like it was for David Taylor and Jordan Burroughs, who has, verbally retired, I guess.
It'll be interesting, and Burroughs did say he was not retired, so I'm interested to see where actually he fits into the entire equation. It's interesting you bring up, again, we're talking about lineup shuffling and where Dake might fit in for the next couple of years through this last cycle. I'd be stunned if he wrestled past this Olympic cycle and tried to, was in the 2032 cycle. I do think, this is just me. Maybe I'm just I am a Kyle Dake fan, and he was like one of the first guys I really started watching when I really got into college wrestling while I was wrestling in high school. Maybe it's just me because I like Dake. I really think he's going to finish out the cycle in some sort of fashion, whether he just keeps trying to make world teams and he makes one last run at the Olympic trials and tries to make an Olympic team. I don't know where he quite fits in. I know the Aaron Brooks thing is very interesting because he's moving up as well. So it's not like Brooks is coming back to 86 to disrupt Zahid Valencia as well.
97. He's going to 97.
Yeah, he said, yeah. I think he was on the quad pod with Ryan Holmes and the entire crew. I think he said that's where he was going to go up to 97 when he's back fully healthy and on the mat, wrestling full time again. And that's a whole separate conversation. Brooks versus Kyle Snyder. That'll be again more teammates going at it. It's the Penn State influx. That'll be certainly fascinating to watch. And again, 92 is not an Olympic weight class, but it is a world team weight class. So you would think does Kyle they go up? I don't think he goes up anymore. I think that big jump from 74 to 86 was the biggest jump he was going to make. I don't think he'd be suited. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but I don't think he's suited personally for 92 kilos, which we just saw. Trent Hidley, obviously Josh Barr's right there, and he's now entering, I guess, the prime of his college career, and of course he'll keep developing on the senior level stuff when it comes to freestyle. So 92 doesn't make sense. Going back down to maybe 79, making less of a cut makes a little sense. But again, Levi Haynes is right there. You just mentioned it. Now this is Levi Haynes' prime, so to speak, and for all we know, he might get a gold medal at Worlds in September. So the only spot to me right now is 86 for this Olympic cycle and for a future world team. If he wants to, try to get back on the world team and, try to take out Zahid. But I said it on my own podcast and even in writing, Zahid Valencia, to me, he's wrestling like this. This is the best Zahid Valencia has ever been. He's now hitting his peak. And I would say if he can maintain this peak for the next 3 years, we're talking about an Olympic medal contender in 2028 at 86 kilos. I love the way I've always loved Zahid Valencia, the way he's wrestled. And if you watched his matches against Kyle Dake, I think it was match one off the top of my head, but one of the matches at Final X, he took Dake down and then immediately they immediately went back to center, and off the whistle, he shoots. It was like 3 instances where Zahid Valencia immediately dropped down on Dake's ankles, went back in on a shot, and he credited that to David Taylor. And ironically, David Taylor and Kyle Dake are best friends, and of course, he knows how to wrestle him. Sure enough, Zahid's wrestling under David Taylor down at Oklahoma State at the Cowboy RTC. This is the best he's ever been. So I think Dake's going to keep giving it a couple more cracks, Zach. I think he will try over the next 3 years to try to get back on the Olympic team, and he's bronzed a couple times now at the Olympics. So it's like he still wants that gold medal. I don't think that chase is going to go away. I don't think. To me, Final X on Saturday was not it for him, but he's not the best in the world anymore, or one of the best in the world anymore when he's not one of the best domestically. He's still one of the best domestically, obviously, but I think Zahid has passed him currently. I don't know what's next for Dake as far as weights are concerned. He's not going to go. I can't see him going all the way back down to 74. Messenbrink is right there in his own room. We saw David Carr take both matches against Messenbrink, and David Carr, I think now is about to hit his stride, especially now that he's training with Jordan Burroughs a little bit as well. I mean, you're talking about the new blood is now in for Team USA. Dake's not done totally, Zach, but I think it's going to be very, very hard to make the team now moving forward. But he won't hang it up. I can't see him hanging it up until after 2028.
And I don't think there's no shame in trying. I don't think that, he should quit practicing, go into coaching, or, take some time off. That's not what I'm trying to argue. But for 74, he's not going to make that weight cut. And then you have to go through David Carr and Mitchell Messenbrink in your own room. 79, you'd have to go through Levi Haynes in your own room. And Zahid Valencia, he's going to be at this peak for the next, 3-4 years through this Olympic cycle. And Cael Dake is slowly regressing because Father Time eventually is always going to be undefeated. So when there's no realistic path, is Cael Dake a reliable option as somebody that could compete? I just don't know that he's ever going to surpass any of Levi Haynes entering his prime, Zahid Valencia being in his prime, and then making that weight cut and then trying to challenge not one, but two guys that are in their prime or getting into their prime.
And it's just so difficult to make these teams year after year. I mean, what Kyle Snyder's doing is almost beyond comprehension, having been on Team USA and manning that 97 kilo spot through Worlds and the Olympics every year since 2015. And on the women's side, Helen Maroulis has been doing it. Mm-hmm. I think it's now 15 teams in a row she's made, which is absolutely insane. Yeah. I mean, no one else is going to do that. And I think she's 33, Cael Dake's 34. And, you would think for combat athletes in wrestling, MMA, boxing, like your prime to me is like 27 to like 34, 35. And after that, if you keep going, it's cake. But we see these guys now, basically, they're still going well into when they hit the age of 40, where they could still compete at the highest level very successfully, with great success, as I should say, is like a tongue twisted there. But I think it's only Mian Lopez from Cuba is the only one who's like the lone exception. I think he's in his 40s and he's a 5-time gold medalist. But again, that's Greco-Roman, so a little bit different. But other than that, you have Kyle Snyder in the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, who's been dominant at that weight for so long, as man in the spot. But Cael Dake, again, this takes nothing away from his 4 gold medals at Worlds. He has a silver medal to boot. 7 medals in total when it comes to Worlds and the Olympics. Again, he's got 2 Olympic bronze medals. Nothing to scoff at, obviously. He's one of the best wrestlers we've seen come out of the United States over the last 25 years, if not more. He's extremely accomplished. And again, one of the greatest collegiate wrestlers ever, being a 4-time national champion, 4 different weights. So he's no stranger to moving around weights, Zach. But I think this is now where we're not going to see. I don't think we see a steep decline with him. I just think now the other guys have caught up and have passed him domestically. Guys like Zahid, and obviously the weight cut was difficult for Dake, making this jump to 86. Now, if he turned around tomorrow, Zach, and said, I'm going back down to 74 for some reason, would I be shocked? Absolutely not. But that's just Cael Dake for you. He's not done yet, but I think the peak of Cael Dake, I think we're now starting to see that was just last year, if not the year before that. The 23, 24 was the end of his peak, at the peak of his powers. And it's a shame because we never want to see these guys go.
Bittersweet.
I want to see guys like Cael Dake wrestle forever. I want to see David Taylor wrestle forever, but it just doesn't happen. I think Father Time is going to start catching up with them as the cycle ends in 2028.